Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today's conversation is a fascinating one because although my guest Russell is internationally known for his work in dyslexia research, this episode isn't really about dyslexia. It's about something that affects almost all of us. Brain fog, mental overload, too many competing priorities, and how we can think more clearly when life and work become increasingly demanding. So Russell Van Brocklen has spent years studying how people learn, communicate and organise their thinking. What surprised me during this conversation was just how transferable many of those ideas are, not just for students, but for busy professionals, parents and anyone trying to cut through the noise. We talk about reducing what Russell calls cognitive drag, using simple mental frameworks to improve clarity, focusing on strengths rather than weaknesses, and why asking better questions may be one of the most valuable skills we can develop in the age of AI. But before we get started, if you enjoy these conversations and find them useful, I'd really appreciate it if you could follow the podcast, leave a quick review, or even share the episode with someone else who might benefit from it. It really does help the show reach more busy professionals looking to work smarter and live better. So whether you're feeling mentally overloaded, looking for ways to improve your focus, or simply curious about how experts approach complex thinking, I think you'll find plenty to take away from this conversation. I hope you enjoy my discussion with Russell Van Brocklen. See you on the other side. Hello and welcome back to Busy Pro Fast Wellness. I am honoured to have as my guest today Russell Van Brocklen, who is a New York State Senate-funded dyslexia researcher known for helping struggling students make extraordinary leaps in writing, clarity and academic confidence, which I absolutely love. But Russell's work goes way beyond dyslexia. His methods focus on reducing cognitive drag, building from strengths, and turning confusion into clarity, which is right up Busy Pro Street. And today we'll be exploring how sharper thinking, better language, and practical mental performance tools can help not just learners, but busy professionals and parents alike. So, really warm welcome to the podcast, Russell. I know that you are a seasoned guest on so many podcasts, especially in the highly esteemed Podmatch arena, I should say. So it's fantastic to have you here on the show. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Great. And one of the things I really like to dive into is you talk about reducing cognitive drag. And so does that exactly mean? And also, how can busy adults recognize when mental friction is quietly draining their performance every day?
But what you have to understand is in the age of artificial intelligence, we are working so much harder than we used to. I've been on, when ChatGPT came out with its $200 a month pro plan in December of 24, I bought it that day.
Okay.
So I've been on dozens of podcasts as an AI expert. And what's going on is we used to have at work the ability just to go to the water fountain, think for a little bit. Now we're running multiple agents and multiple projects and we just have no downtime. So by the time we finish our workday, or we're going to a meeting and we're trying to communicate things, we need a new set of mental principles based on actual science. So what typically happens is the cutting edge science is not done with normal people. It's done on dyslexia. And then it filters out to normal people. So just so people know where I'm coming from, this is the top book on dyslexia. It's called Overcome Dyslexia by Dr. Sally Shaywitz from Yale. And that's dyslexia. The back part of my brain has nothing going on. Yours has massive neuroactivity. The front part of my brain is about 2.5 times overactive. That's what I use.
Okay.
It's called word analysis followed by articulation.
Right.
People ask, why should they listen to me? Well, I am a New York State Senate funded dyslexia researcher, and what happened after years of to get the funding is we took a bunch of super motivated dyslexic high school juniors and seniors who were writing at the middle school level. One class period for the day for the school year, they increased the writing to average range of entering graduate students.
Mm.
They all went on to college, all graduated GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6. We were 3x more successful than the best dyslexic transfer college for less than 1% of the class. It's under $900. So I know how to get people to focus and to get the best work done at the grad level. So
Yeah.
what we really need to focus on is to get rid of your brain fog, is to
Yeah.
focus on universal themes.
Mm. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that really does connect well with what I try to do as well. It's having that brain fog and reducing that mental friction a lot of the time, for sure. Yeah. And do you have
Well,
any sort of practical ways or somebody can reduce that cognitive lag?
exactly. So because we're talking about adults here and
Yeah.
how we can communicate, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a general framework.
Okay.
And then if you want, I can give you some examples of how to adapt it. But what I found is with the following explanation, the vast majority of educated adults can just apply it. So I want you to think about when you're dealing with anything, if you're dealing with a universal theme and then you explain it, people get it.
Mm.
It's kind of like using the universal theme as a concept. People just get it. But when you're dealing with concepts, then an explanation allows them to really understand it very quickly. And this
Mm.
is something that they can apply going into meetings, doing things at home when you're just freaking exhausted. You do some practice with this, and it just allows you to do things very quickly. All right,
Okay.
but the best way I like to describe it as I'd like to start off to just introduce the concept is through a movie review. Surprisingly, this is the most effective way I found to communicate this to adults. So I want you to think of a movie that meets three criteria. You think it's one of the best of all time. You know it intimately, and everybody's seen it. What's the name of that movie?
I would have to go with Back to the Future.
Which one?
Well, I'd go for number two because that's the favourite of I think that's the cleverest part with the plot. But
Okay,
number one
so
is the one
back
that
to
most people remember, I think.
oh yeah, but back it's an excellent one. Now, what I want you to think about, I need you to reduce Back to the Future number two to a one-word universal theme that best represents your unique viewpoint of the movie. One word.
Okay. Triumph.
Triumph. Okay. Now, if I were to go to your local school, your local public school, find their best and brightest dyslexic student in high school, how long do you think that would have taken?
I have no idea.
It
Probably. Well,
instantaneously.
okay.
So just so people know, because I'm also discussing a little bit of dyslexia in here. This part of the brain has 2.5 times the neural activity for dyslexics. This is one of the advantages of being dyslexic. It's instantaneous. Okay, so triumphed. Okay. Now, when you're looking at triumph, if you were to do a movie review on that, you would have asked how do the actors do, the directors do, and the screenwriter. But the problem we have with triumph and why we can't use it effectively is it's a broad brush. We have to get much more specific. So the question is, how do we do that? And for that, I went and I talked to every professor I could. And I said, in English language history, what one person best was known for communicating complex ideas effectively and efficiently? And they all said one name, Shakespeare. So I am now going to traumatize part of your audience just for a moment, just so we can understand the general framework of Shakespeare so we can simplify it and use it.
Okay.
Okay. So I want you to think back of any Shakespeare play you ever read
Okay.
in high school.
Yeah.
You'd have a
Yeah.
hero. Hero would want to do something based on one or more universal themes. And there'd be an ultimate villain who was a character with some concepts and some universal themes, try to prevent the hero from accomplishing their goal. They would interact in Act One. conflict would explode in Act Two, resolve Act Three. Sound familiar?
Okay, yeah.
We're going to simplify that. And then we're going to apply word analysis followed by articulation and show you how to develop a universal thing that you can practice in your head to focus so you can communicate it instantly in any situation and just vanish that brain fog. So let's go beyond the movie review. Tell me a situation where you wanted to get rid of brain fog, and that really would resonate with your podcast guests, so your podcast listeners. What was the situation, and what was it that you wanted to do?
The situation would be, for example, when people are really inundated with too many tasks at work and they don't really know where to start. So therefore, they don't really have the facility to prioritize in what that they're doing. And they are just sort of scattered. So I guess for me it would be about identifying in advance what one single task would be that would take precedence. And as long as they've got that, then they've achieved something in the process.
Honestly, most people use ChatGPT or Claude. I would simply pick one of the more advanced models, dump what you're doing in, and ask what's the priority list. But once you have the priority list, trying to communicate what you're trying to say. All right. Let's say we found the task that we have to do first, and we need to communicate it. And it could be anywhere from a quick email, which I recommend people dictate now instead of typing, just talk and type, so you can do it so much faster. Or they need to have it in a meeting or whatever. So give me an exact situation where they need to communicate something and the brain fog is getting in the way.
Okay, they need to communicate to their team that there is an important managerial executive coming in who's going to be presenting a particular topic, and they need to brush up and they need to know what the area of expertise is, so that they're at least prepared with some sort of questioning or techniques in order to contribute something useful to the meeting.
Okay. First thing that I would do with that is, number one, we're adults. We can use artificial intelligence to help with the intellectual grunt work. Get rid of the brain fog. Now, as you practice this, and you put ChatGPT on your phone, or if you're using Claude, currently I would use Opus 4.8, set on high to max thinking. Okay?
Okay.
Stay away from Sonic 5. It's not good for this. And Fable 5 is overkill for this thing, unless it's that critical. If it's that critical, then use Fable 5. And you don't need to put it on max, just keep it on high and you'll be fine. So as you get used to this, you're going to find that this allows you to hit things very closely. And you know what is probably going to trip you up. Now, if it's something really critical, I have seen people that would go through and find 3 primary villains, first, second, and third. Really going over this, like if it's a critical meeting, a critical decision. And what would happen is they would go into the boardroom and they've already thought it through. And now they have a good understanding, and just on the fly, they could then just be very, very effective in a discussion that just gets thrown at them because they're prepared. And the other person hasn't walked through this. They haven't thought through. They don't know how to communicate. They may know the subject matter better, but they don't know how to focus it. Their brain's too foggy.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, everything that you've just said, obviously you've really explored all of these different options, and you've gone deeply. This is a deep dive into how you can possibly exploit the intricacies of different models, and you've even given us advice on what not to use and what to use, which is something that's never happened. And I've done many interviews on these shows, and you've come at it from a different angle by giving a hypothetical situation and then getting obviously me to try to be in the position and then throwing out hypothetical situations myself in order to explore this. So if we're coming at it from all angles, what you're essentially saying is that having done all this, this not difficult work, because as you say, the brunt of the work, the heavy lifting's been done by AI. So
Mhm.
you could apply the same principles just about to any situation by using those same ideas of having the hero, of having the villain, of looking. Obviously, then you've given your examples of how you would look at particular words within sentences, and that would be very helpful for those people who've suffered from the brain fog, which would be the dyslexia, although their brains are exceptionally fast in some respects answering questions, but they're going to have lots of sort of stuff and their minds are flying around. So that would actually really help there. So that would be transferable, isn't it? Because that's going to work in any situation for anybody, whether it be people that are dyslexic. You've given your particular examples for that, and people like me, for example, who might be trying to advise on how they can cut through that noise and minimize the friction as well. Because your answer was surprisingly detailed, and I was thinking to myself, wow, you're going off on a tangent which I've never ever really had to take on before myself. So it's fascinating to do that, because if we delve into what you've just done, then we will come out with those little nuggets. Well, that's all very, very good. Thank you so much for elaborating on that side of things. Can I ask another completely separate
Sure,
question
absolutely,
from
absolutely.
that? Because well, I want to get back in more into the sort of educational, specifically with the transferable stuff to what I'm attempting to do as well. Because you've often talked about people learning better when they focus on their strengths, which I totally agree with you on this. Instead of constantly trying to fix their weaknesses. So how can adults use that approach in work, parenting, or indeed personal growth?
Well, let me give you an example of Casey. Just so you know, everybody, this is a one-off edge case. I never saw this before. I'll never see this again. Of the hundreds of teachers I taught, I will never, ever see this again.
Okay.
Casey was 10 years old when I met her at the end of fifth grade. She came from a lower middle class family in the Midwestern United States. She was fanatically interested in Theodore Roosevelt, turned 11 over the summertime. She was reading like a 7-year-old. And I assigned her this massive book, The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. Oh, 900 pages of it.
Okay.
The process that I gave you, I gave her a version of that. She went up to her room. This is all Casey. She sat down for literally 3 hours a night for the next 6 months, most of the days during the summertime, 8, 10 hours a day, doing a similar thing of what I gave you. At the end of that, you could flip to this random page, point to that random word, and she'd tell you the exact dictionary definition. She jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months, and I worked with her for 15 minutes a week.
Wow. Yeah.
So this is a 10 to 11-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Okay. For adults, I don't see any excuses. So what does this mean? First thing that you need to do is, when you're applying this, is find out what your speciality is, your area of extreme interest and ability.
Yeah.
Okay. For work, find out something very specific. For the kids, find out what that one subject is. Next, if you go to a typical unit, if I were to ask you, what effect did Martin Luther King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech have on the American Civil Rights Movement in the 1960s? You would automatically be able to go and write that paper, go into a major research university with no other instructions. Big picture, eventually going down to the details. But for a dyslexic, we got to flip that. We have to go something very specific and slowly go outwards. Because if you ask a dyslexic in their speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed but with little to no organization? The answer is yes. So starting off at a very specific point and going out allows us to focus. So we would look at what personally compelled Martin Luther King to give his famous speech. We get an answer, and that answer would give us a question, give us an answer, give us a question, give us an answer. That allows us to basically force our brain to organize itself. All right. And then we do word analysis followed by articulation. What all that leads us to is one of the most important thing I can tell you. The head of Google AI a couple of months ago said the biggest issue they have is coming up with a proper problem statement. Proper problem statement is if you answer it, you're going to move things forward a lot in whatever you're doing. There's a book called The Craft of Research, where it teaches you how to do your doctoral dissertation, sold over 1 million copies in 31 years. It's context, problem statement, solution. The problem statement is the issue. If you want to know how to really solve things, it explains how to go top down.
Okay.
Remember how I told you big picture, go into details? That's what it does, but advanced people can't apply it well. Google can't apply it well. They can't train their people how to do problem statements. So I start bottom up with word analysis followed by articulation. And a big part of that is that question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, starting at a bottom to eventually meet the top down.
Right.
That's how you come up with a really good problem statement. You do that, and you would be extraordinarily valuable at Google, who only hires the smartest people in the world. So that's another way of how to connect dyslexic thinking to coming up with the most valuable part of intellectual work, which is the problem statement.
Brilliant. Yeah. I love the way that you've almost reversed engineered all of this in order to think about how you can possibly find those solutions. Because sometimes it's about really looking at the bigger picture and then, as you say, focusing in on the minutiae, isn't it? In order to slowly, because it's like anything. If you're going to do a PhD or a doctorate, it's amazing how niche, how far down you've got to go, really. And it's sometimes that's one of the parts of the problem that we have. We've got too much stuff going around. It's swirling around, and we try to get down to the absolute minimal, real, basic, essential point. And so, you quoting those books, that book that you mentioned, The Art of Research, that would be amazing for PhD students, and that is the kind of Bible for doctorate students. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yes. It's called The Craft of Research from the University of Chicago. Came out in 1995, sold over 1.1 million copies. But one of the key services that I'm getting more and more, I can't believe that I'm doing this, but I actually created a process, a document on how to come up with a proper problem statement that takes the craft of research top-down approach and my bottom-up approach. And people put in what they think the problem statement is, and it's always extremely specific. Okay. The people that could add, like, what started World War II, if you could add something meaningful there, oh, you're a rock star around the world. But people can't come up with good problem statements, and it's not the solution that matters. It's the problem statement, which allows you to come up with a solution. If you can't ask the right questions, you can't solve it. So one of the biggest things
Russell, is that what you're working on? Are you working a lot on this yourself at the moment with the models that you've talked about in order to?
Oh yeah, I've actually created a document that takes people through how to come up with a problem statement. Why? One of the most advanced kids I'm working with now, his name is Grayson. He's 10 years old, not dyslexic in the least. He's in the 99th percentile for math and science. He wants to get his PhD work at NASA to terraform Mars. So he's reading at the 12th grade level. His content is third year college. And I'm distilling PhD articles in transforming Mars down to 12th grade and third year college content. All right, he's 10. We're going to bring him through to coming up with a good problem statement, then send him off to a senior professor. Okay. Wow. This is the skill that people have to learn. And so, I have it. I set up things for AI where every project I do, I go and say, I'm thinking about this. And it spits back and says, that's not the real thing. Here's the problem statement. And then I use primarily Claude. And then I'll go and say, okay, I'm turning your research mode on. Go get me a 4,000 word research paper. Actually, now I got it up to 7,000. And it goes and gets me a 7,000 research report. And then I put it into the rest of my workflow.
Okay. Wow.
But I'm coming up with a proper problem statement in like less than 5 minutes. And everybody else I know can't even come up with one.
Okay.
And they're shocked that I have a system.
Is that because of your brain? I mean, I obviously know that you mentioned in other podcasts and stuff. I've seen bits and pieces about the dyslexia. Is that because of that you feel that you've got a handle on this probably more than most people with a quote unquote normal brain?
I got it light years beyond Google
Okay.
because I have to create this so that my kids can get jobs in the future. That's
Yeah,
what it
right.
is. You have to know how to. You have to get to a problem statement. I show them how to do that in high school.
Okay, okay, good. So that brings me to a very quick question. I've got a few rapid fire things because that would feed into what I wanted to ask you first of all. Because one of the biggest myths about people, well, the biggest myth that people believe about dyslexia, what would that be?
They think it's a reading problem, and it's not. It's a lack of organization in the front part of the brain that causes reading to be difficult.
Okay, brilliant. That's so clear. Thank you very much. And one phrase parents should stop saying immediately.
That dyslexia is it's a learning disability. It's not. It's a learning difference. The dyslectic's brain just focuses on the front part of the brain where we do really well in grad school. It's just hard for us to get there. We are not we are not people who want to be uh, generally educated. We just want to be in our specific narrow niche.
Okay, great. That's really, really clear. And the fastest way to rebuild a struggling learner's confidence.
Focus on their speciality, teach them from specific to the general, word analysis followed by articulations. That's simple.
Okay, thanks. And you've given us great, in-depth explanation of that anyway. So, and the lastly here, one mental habit that creates unnecessary cognitive drag for adults.
Trying to get outside of your speciality, you have to be laser focused in today's area and just understand right now, Fable 5 with Sonic 5 doing the work is now doing almost all my work for me. I have to know what good looks like and when it's not, how to fix it. And you have
Yeah,
to know that in your bones and you have to specialize, really specialize
yeah,
and get to that skill level. And once you are, you're going to be incredibly valuable.
yeah.
And you don't need to do all this advanced prompting anymore. It's simply a conversation with Fable 5 in the Claude Cowork area.
That's good to
And
hear.
go back and forth. And get it to set up a plan, approve the plan, and then send it off. And then go enjoy lunch.
Great stuff. And what about if people want to reach out to you and to explore some of the things that you're doing? What's the best way of doing that?
Best thing to do is just go to dyslexiaclasses.com. That's with an S, dyslexia classes. Click on the contact me and send us a message. We can set up a time pretty quickly.
Okay,
I give a half an hour time for no charge to talk about pretty much anything.
right. Okay,
And
brilliant.
surprisingly, a big part showing people how to come up with problem statements. That's becoming a very big part of my business. I'm like, okay, I never thought this would happen, but
No,
it's
that is
happening.
it's definitely changed because I obviously I contact we were in contact a few months ago and I did look at some of your content then, and there was no real talk on this area that I can recall. So or maybe
Oh,
I
this is
just missed the crest.
no, this is. I have to come up with constant stuff all the time.
Yeah,
I'm redoing things all the. I'm creating new things with AI all the time.
yeah, brilliant. And there's also something else which I don't know if you're still doing, but I noticed there's a free guide, 3 reasons your child's dyslexic education isn't working and what to do
Yes,
about it. Is that still going on? Are you still
yes, we still hand that out to parents.
okay?
What we primarily teach parents to teach their kids because the schools won't make the switch and how
Yeah,
dyslexics like to learn, and we show parents how to take their kids from where they are to get them at or above grade level in reading and writing.
great. Okay.
And I don't teach reading. I teach writing, and if you can write it, you can read it. And then the parents send the kids back, and they're okay, and
Yeah.
they're not sending them off to a $75,000 a year private school.
Okay. Thank you. That's really, really useful. Russell, I'm going to be signing off very soon. So, is there anything else you'd like to add before we say goodbye? Anything else that's
Nope,
burning there? Okay.
nope.
Well,
You gave me everything that you answered. You asked really good questions.
oh, thank you. Yeah. So I think for me, it's just the real value isn't just obviously about talking about dyslexia. It's about it's a powerful reminder that reducing that cognitive drag, and building from our strengths, which is, I think, something I was really hoping to look at, and I think we did touch on that. Clearer thinking becomes, a very a performance advantage for everyone, and you've really given us a good analysis of how we can bring the AI into that for everyone in order to, and as you branched out, so that's been very useful and interesting to hear about. So Russell, thanks very much, and I shall bid you farewell. Thanks to Russell Van Brocklen for joining me on Busy Pro Fast Wellness. Goodbye for now.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, bye-bye.